I organized projects around these thoughts: embrace green landscape, maximize fresh air and natural light, open circulation and social space, outside simulcast and distance seating, and ecological integration. These are points that I've been embracing many years, but now, especially now with this terrible pandemic, that we're all thinking about how can we make better architectural spaces. And so I picked a few buildings that we have worked on, and some that we haven't built yet, and organized around these points. I mean, I've been giving the talk about energy and architecture for maybe 20 years now, and this goes back to a lecture that I gave, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, called Pro Kyoto, and it was about the fact that Bush would not join the Kyoto Protocol, and I tried to organize myself around these thoughts. And during that lecture, I talked about what is architecture on the 21st century. And there was a chart that was made by Colin Rowe many years ago, where he divided modern architecture and classical architecture. And I said, we need another column. He called classical architecture absolute, 20th century modern relative, and I say the 21st century is interactive. Classic was fixed, modern was stable, 21st century is dynamic. Classic was physical, metaphysical, modern was physical, real, 21st is virtual real. Classic is space and time, modern is space-time, 21st is space-time information. Classic is essence, modern is matter, 21st century is information. Anyway, this chart, I won't go through the whole thing, but there's a way of thinking about and facing the fact of what we have to work with today. So in the category of embrace green landscape, we just opened this building 2 weeks ago, in fact. It's the Winters Visual Arts Center at Franklin Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And that's named after Benjamin Franklin and Thurgood Marshall. And I had this idea that Franklin, you know, when he was trying to discover electricity, was flying a kite in the rain. And I had this idea of a kite-like building that would fly high and sit on something heavy. So divided the building into the heavy and the light. That was the first sketch I made. And the second sketch, after we won the interview process, I made another drawing, which is about the trees, the oldest thing on that campus. Some of the trees are 300 years old and 4 feet in diameter. So I made the whole building then respond to those tree diameters and the drip lines of the branches. So the concave shape of the studios upstairs takes on, and then it sits on 2 simple concrete bases. And then the upstairs, it's like built like a box kite. I use the 2-story height for a framing that's very lightweight, and then the roof was put in by the Amish. You know, this Lancaster, Pennsylvania is Amish country. They really are amazing people, and they came with their beards and their black stovepipe hats, and they put this T&G roof that's suspended. They put it in 2 weeks. There you see the plan. This is art studios, painting studios, ceramic studios. Thank you, the ceramic company, for sponsoring this. I'm really amazed at the sponsorship and proud of it. We don't get that in America as much as it happens in Europe. Anyway, this is a studio for arts and art history, and you can see it sits on that simple base of concrete, and there's the idea of the kite-like, the box kite-like trusses in red that make the whole thing very lightweight and sitting simply on the rectangular base. There it is under construction, and we just opened it 2 weeks ago, and they really appreciate this building. Due to the pandemic, only 32 students now occupy it, but they're really enjoying using the spaces. That's that opening on the ground floor that opens to Buchanan Park. And there's the T&G roof put in by the Amish. And the building has a very open circulation system. You enter it on a ramp from the the campus up above and also below. So there's no need to use an elevator, and the circulation is very open air. There you see the ramp that takes the level of the original campus grade and just brings it up. And this is the image of the auditorium. The tilt of the auditorium has a kind of sky blue underside. There you can feel the way the trees and those big diameters have influenced the shape of this building. And there's a retention pond for stormwater retention on the campus. This is a low point in campus. And we made that into a reflecting pool for the building. A museum in Kansas City, now opened in 2007, the extension of a 1930s neoclassical building. It's really embracing green space and merging with the landscape. And the concept began with a painting in their collection from the 11th century, a Chinese painting that really shows the merging of architecture and landscape. And you can see the landscape threading through the sculpture gardens between these light pavilions that bring light down below. And some of the sculpture, like Noguchi's fountain, integrates with the landscape beyond, outside the building. There you see the actual realization of that same vision from the competition drawings. So there's an original building, a big neoclassical rectangle in the middle, and all the other competitors built against the north side of the building, and we refused that, and we went down through the landscape and won the competition. And you can see there, it's really like a long skyscraper on its side, merging with the landscape, where the lenses come up to bring light down. And outdoor events can happen in the plaza that's formed by the original building and the new building. This is the Kennedy Center extension, another merging architecture with landscape that just opened in November. This building, original building, is from 1971, and it's a living memorial to JFK. Unlike the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and the Jefferson Memorial, this is a building about activities, about performance. They have events 360 days a year in this facility. So everything is connected below this landscape, and then these three pavilions pop up and bring light down, and they're organized as the entry pavilion, the Glissando Pavilion, and the River Pavilion, which has a cafe. And then they organize this entire landscape. Now, this was once just a bus parking lot, and now it's the largest green roof in Washington, D.C. Just some sections that show how everything is connected below. The River Pavilion on the left and the Glissando Pavilion in the distance. And here you can see the Potomac River in the distance. And there's the Lincoln Memorial. The Washington Memorial is to the left. And you can't imagine how difficult it is to build in a city like Washington, D.C. I've built in a lot of difficult places. In London, the Maggie Center was difficult, and New York is difficult, but I will say now that this is the most difficult city to build in my experience. And there's the opening day, my daughter walking across the landscape there. And some other events. I think this wasn't opening day. This was another event that they had this in late November. And we just got a video on Instagram where they're, even during the pandemic, they have concerts. They open up the glass doors of the River Pavilion, and people sit out in the landscape in their own little bubbles and enjoy the concert. This is a piece of sculpture. Just something we always do is experiment with material, and I wanted to experiment with cross-laminated timber construction. And we were invited to make a piece of sculpture in the Sculpture Park Art OMI. So my daughter named it Oberlin, and it's really about the sun angles of the solstice, the equinox, and the winter solstice. And it's a place that you can enjoy the light in 3 different ways. But the experiment was really about how do you make something today, and this was drawn completely in the computer and fed to this robot that cut everything out of a single sheet of CLT. So there you see the 55-foot long piece of cross-laminated timber, and this machine working away 24 hours and cutting all the pieces. So there's a level of craft that you can allude to in a process like this. And there certainly is a level of complication that you can achieve without much effort. But it's a piece of sculpture. It's a piece of exploration of material. But it's also about light and about that place. Maximize fresh air and natural light. We've been doing that in all of our buildings anyway, but now I think more than ever, we have to think about that. Natural ventilation to all spaces is something I've fought for many years, but now it becomes something really during the pandemic, ideas that were there before become even more important. And this is the doctorate building at the National University of Colombia in Bogota. The working drawings are all ready for this building to go forward. And that's why I keep including in all these lectures. I'm trying to convince the university this would be a perfect post-COVID construction because it's practically all outside. In Bogota, because of the elevation, it's always around 70 degrees. So you can really do an inside-out building. And we were making models of what does that mean, an inside-out building? All the corridors to the classrooms are outside, and the major spaces are outside, like the portal. The building is got solar cells and recycled water and natural ventilation, of course, to all spaces. And there's that kind of entrance portal, which forms the campus quadrangle. And from that entrance portal, looking out, you see the cafe in the distance and the quadrangle that's formed by the building itself. There it is, looking in a kind of photo montage. It's a very green landscape. This building you saw in the film, so I will just pass by it. This is the Reed Glasgow School of Art, a building that we've completed. It was a competition we won, a building we completed in 2014. And the basic idea is driven voids of light. These are voids that bring fresh air to every room, bring light down into the section, but they're also structural. So you see here, there's the structural tubes that are supports, and they bring the light down, they bring the air up. And really it was also an homage to Macintosh's great building, which was tragically on fire again. But Macintosh's great building, which is all about light, all different kinds of natural light. And that was the idea of this building. How many different kinds of natural light? And also it's all about making the building as green as possible with natural ventilation, and every kind of biomass plant that feeds both buildings. Everything, all of Arup worked with us to make it a kind of LEED Platinum building. There you see the plan, very simple. I always do my plans last, after I make perspectives and sketches and understand the space and the concept. And because a plan like this, if you draw that first, you're looking for a very banal building, but it's not banal at all. There you see the way the corridors slice through the driven voids, and that activates the whole idea of the driven voids. And it's got great light there in Glasgow, that north light. This is a building that we're just finishing now, the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. It's the place where Einstein did his work until he died in 1954. So it's a very important small campus. It's not Princeton University. It's about a mile away from Princeton University. And the concept was really to intertwine with natural gardens, the idea of science intertwined with nature, the humanities and the arts intertwined with nature, the whole nature and intertwining and meshing. That was a conceptual drawing, and that was a competition against Graham Coolhouse, Todd Williams, Mass Architect. Anyway, it's one of those competitions. which we won, and natural light, of course, and how could it come in? It's a small building, but how could this natural light make different spaces, different qualities? And that was one of the competition drawings, 12/12/2015. And you see the water gardens. You can see 3 water gardens from one of the main spaces. And there you see the main curves. They're called space curves, where 2 curves intersect that define the cafe, the main living room, the different meeting rooms, and the simple section of how you can walk through the building as you move through the campus. And some drawings, that's the cafe, and that's looking out into the landscape. These are your computer drawings that look like it's finished, but it's not finished yet. You see the prismatic glass on the upper right that breaks white light into the color spectrum. Open circulation and social space. This is the Iowa Arts Building in the University of Iowa, which we finished in 2016. And it was a very big site. It's 300 feet on a side. So I said, we must bring natural light and air deeply into this long section. So I made this concept drawing, multiple centers of light, 7 cuts in this 300-foot square that really would bring the light and air. And it's a very complex program. It's a 140,000 square foot building with all different kinds of studios, painting, sculpture, art history. That because of these cuts of light and air, it organizes the whole building. And when you pass through this, then people walking to the campus from the dormitories walk through this building, because we connected the sidewalk on the top of the site to the lower part that goes onto the campus. So everybody walks through here, so that they pass by the art gallery that shows the art students' work, and the feeling of openness. You never feel like you need to use an elevator, because you can just walk to every level. So, and that was from the concept drawing, but from the multiple centers of light, there would be outdoor space, there would be places to sit outside, or places to sit and study on your computer. You could, it's a sort of open feeling. Every time there's one of those multiple centers of light cuts, there's an open social space. And there you see the relationship of this new building to a building that we completed in 2007, I think it was 2007, which is the Corten steel building cantilevered over the existing lagoon. And we then, with the 2 buildings, we could form this green quadrangle, which is like a sculpture park. The entrance to Princeton University is now defined by our building, the Lewis Center for the Arts. And that's also forming a quadrangle, but it's in 3 pieces. So in the dance building, there's a concept of a thing within a thing. In the poetry, there's a concept of embedded. And in the music building, there's a concept of suspension. Individual practice rooms are suspended over the collective orchestral practice room. And those are acoustically separated on metal rods suspended from the beams above. There you see the basic plan, where everything is joined in a great form. And that building is a concrete structure that's exposed on the inside with insulation on the outside, and then the outside of that is leche stone, all quarried from leche, from Pimar's quarry in Leche. It's a stone quarry that's been open for 2,000 years, since Roman times, and the stone itself is 21 million years old. Anyway, here's I mean, that's my Italian connection, my commercial for Pimar, right? And there you can see into the form, and you can see the courtyard, the garden above. And there you see the music building, where the practice rooms in their wooden boxes are suspended on 1-inch steel rods from the beam above. So they're separated from each other. There's a video, by the way, on a number of these buildings. You can go on Vimeo and see a whole video that explained the building in much more detail. And Maggie Center, we talked about already in the introductory film. So I will just say that was the concept drawing, where you have the bamboo inner layer, the structure as a kind of concrete hand, and the noom notation, the musical notation embedded in the staff that surrounds the whole. And there's a study of the noom notation. And a section through the building. Again, you don't need to use an elevator. It's very gentle and drawing you up. And all of this is natural bamboo with no paint. And you can see how the noom notation glass gives a certain brightness to the interior. This just opened last year, the Hunters Point Library in Queens. You can see it's in front of all these developer skyscrapers, but it holds its own as a little public building. And the central concept in the center is that it's a balance of the digital and the book. So behind these bookcases, which you see when you arrive and look up, there are computer desks. So everybody can be on their computers, but there also is a sense of the balance with the book. And that diagonal then gives direct views to Manhattan along that stair. This is a very simple plan. Again, the plans are drawn last, not first. I think Zaha always drew her plans first. She was a good friend of mine. And then you see how this building shapes the garden space. A very simple concrete structure that's cut. There are no beams and columns. It's just this concrete structure that's exposed on the outside. And I think that was opening day. And there you can see, I think these slides are taken from opening day, which was last September. And there you see the view to the Empire State Building in the distance. So this is the children's library. So this library gives a kind of public view in a small community library, a kind of, let's say, a millionaire's view of the city of Manhattan. There's also the children's library and the acoustically perforated bamboo. This is a project that's been going on for 12 years now. And we just opened in 2018, we opened the Glasgow School of Art. It's for the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. But that was a competition drawing, and we were against Snøhetta and Morphosis, and the brief told to build a 7-story parking garage so that you could vacate the site on the right, which is the site for the new museum. And we said, no, we would propose instead to tear down the smaller Glasgow School and build a new school, not 40,000, but 80,000 square feet, and therefore extend the sculpture garden double its size. And we won that competition, and therefore we also had another building to do. And there you see the master plan, where the Glasgow School is up on the upper left, and the new museum is on the right. So this building opened in 2018, all natural ventilation. Every time you see that little square, there's natural ventilation windows to the studio spaces, the painting studios and the sculpture studios and the classrooms. And it has a roof terrace on top that overlooks the whole campus. Very simple plan. And at the elbow of that plan, there's a kind of amphitheater that also serves as weddings, a place for weddings and concerts. And the structure is the skin. These are precast concrete panels. Some of them weigh 50,000 pounds. They were precast in Waco, Texas. They hold up the floors. So there's no columns or beams. These are slabs that are holding up the different floors. And that's the master plan, showing you the relation, the building this is the original 1924 stone. This is Mies van der Rohe, Mies's only museum, and you can see that curve. This is from 1958 and 1973. You see that curve. We brought that curve in to this building, and we also brought the terrazzo floor of Mies into the terrazzo floor of our new building. That's by Rafael Mineo. That's our Glasgow School, but this is a competition model. And now we're just opening on the 15th of November and the 21st of November, even though there's a pandemic, because they want to celebrate this building, so it will be masks and distancing, but it's opening here in November, and we're very proud of it. It's been a long process, 8 years from the beginning. And there's the concept drawing from the competition, the idea of the big Texas sky, clouds that bring light down between the edges of the clouds and open circulation. You never need to use an elevator here, and there's no dead ends. You move from one gallery to another gallery in a sequence. And there you see, I think this was taken last week. That's in that very more open central space of the building, and the way the gentle stairs circle around it. And there's that terrazzo floor, that's Mies van der Rohe, and that's looking up at some of the cloud light coming down. So that light is in that sort of, let's say, luminous canopy over all the top of the building and over the central space as well. And the mixture of natural light and artificial light is achieved by a long process working together with Hervé Descott. And the skin of the building is a cold jacket. It's tubes that are laminated glass, sandblasted, and they're open on the bottom and on the top. So when the sun hits this building, it reduces the solar gain by 90%. By the chimney effect, it draws the air up the side of the building, exhausting at the top. It also is a way of bringing light into the middle floors, and a way of the building can glow at night from a distance. Simulcast, distant seats in the auditorium. So this is something that we achieved at the Kennedy Center. And this was pre-pandemic, but we had this idea anyway, that you could project on the pavilion a simulcast of an opera. You know, in the Kennedy Center, an opera seat might be $300, $250. The ticket's too high for, you know, normal people. And now, with the simulcast, everybody can see what's going on inside the opera for free. I'm sure that JFK would really appreciate that as a very democratic function for a place like the Kennedy Center. And also, we're doing at the Bogota, we're making distant seating in the auditorium and providing simulcast in that big entrance portal. So that's another plus for that entrance portal, another way to use it. An ecological integration I've been doing for years, but I just do in summary a couple of projects that were very extensive. This is a first LEED Platinum building in China. It's the linked hybrid. It's residences, cafes, offices, recreation space, and it's heated and cooled by 660 geothermal wells, 100 meters deep. Matthias Schuler and I took a risk to do this in China. It had never been done at this scale before, and it's working perfectly. 780 apartments, cooled and heated by geothermal wells. And there you can see this is a chart by Matthias Schuler that shows how the flywheel effect allows this system to work. Basically, it harvests the 2 degrees change in the temperature of the groundwater. And also, it's all gray water recycled. So the large public water feature in the center of it is all recycled water, and because it's ultravioletly zapped, there's no smell. And this is water that's there all year round. So it freezes in winter, and people actually ice skate. And that's the main public space now. This project forms a kind of public garden space for everyone. And also a LEED Platinum in southern China, in Shenzhen. This was a competition we won. Then we opened this building in 2009, the horizontal skyscraper. It was a competition where it was a very big site, and there was a height limit of 35 meters, and it's right next to the ocean. So in order to see the ocean and also think about flooding and ocean waves, we said, let's just raise the whole building up and then turn the ground over to the public. And there you see the ocean at the bottom, and you see the way the building is shaped by feng shui, with mountains to the north and ocean view to the south. And raising that whole building up 20 meters off the ground, I thought was, it was an experiment. I never expected to win the competition, but because of the great client, we won. This shows the diagram that it was a 60,000 meter site. We added a green roof of 15,000 meters, so we actually increased the green space to 75,000 square meters. And the gardens themselves, I did as a kind of landscape homage to Roberto Burle Marx. It's tropical vegetation. And there it gets quite hot, so the breezes that blow across the landscape are a positive thing. And that's all recycled water. The pools are all recycled water. And that's just a diagram of the daylighting simulation. We studied very carefully with Matthias Schuler that every single space gets proper daylight and ventilation. And we even designed the louvers, the sun louvers, based on palm fronds that are activated by the different times of the day. And of course, the solar cells on the roof, 13% of the total energy. And all the interiors are done in ecological, sustainable bamboo. And that's a night view. Those are the structural legs of the building, but that's also where the plumbing and everything comes down, and I needed a place to put that. So then we did a sheathing in sandblasted glass. Those are really plumbing chases, but then because we light them, they become the nighttime light fixtures. So that basically, these are the sort of the 5 concepts that I organize everything around for this talk post-COVID. Thank you.